The following episode of Dave's Video Graveyard contains spoilers and naughty words. Listener discretion is advised.
Have you ever bought or rented a videotape that wasn't quite right? It may have been a pirate copy.
Ratings advice. Use it. It's on every...
We're going streaking!
Dave's Video Graveyard.
That guy in a little coat.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I'm not a smart man.
Shut up! One tubby.
What's wrong with him?
My first thought would be alive.
Why so serious?
Wise man say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
Hail to the king, baby.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
Of all the radio shows in the world, this is definitely one of them. Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 WOWFM.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard for your Monday night. It is a pleasure to be with you. A little bit warmer than I expected, but nonetheless, that may just be because this evening's guest is so hot. We are joined this evening by a DVG All-Star, not just a DVG All-Star, a DVG favourite. We are joined by Vee Von Claire. How are you?
Having me. It's been a while.
Thank you very much for being here. Yes, it has been a while. We haven't been graced by your amazing presence since 2017, believe it or not.
Seriously?
But
wow.
in saying that, those years between kind of didn't exist anyway, to the most part.
Yeah,
so.
they don't count. Definitely not.
So how have you been?
I have been good. Things have changed. I'm still performing. But yes, sadly, because of the last year and a half, things have definitely slowed down. But hopefully they're now going to be on the climb with Fringe starting up next year. And I've got some performances and Christmas shows happening with the dear Vonnie, one of our Lego originals. And yeah, some of the other queens of Adelaide.
Very lovely.
Yes.
Very lovely. Now, this evening, it is a mixed bag special, so it's not a guest choice.
No.
You did join us originally for a guest choice
Yes.
when you let us know about your all-time favourite movies. Now, when you joined us, your favourite 10 movies,
Oh, God.
Blazing Saddles,
Yep.
Singing in the Rain, Mulan, The Longest Yard / Mean Machine, because you don't discriminate.
No.
You know a good movie when you see one.
Yep.
Carrie, Rent,
Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Calamity.
Go-to movies, absolutely. And then when you asked me to give you a top 5 today, or a couple of days ago, I'm not going to lie, this was hard to put together because I'd already given you my favourite top 10.
Yeah.
So then I had to look and go, right, what are my go-to movies? Which are the ones that I can just throw on the TV and I have no problem watching? I'm not going to stop it. I'm going to watch it from beginning to end and I still love every second of it. And that's pretty much what I've given you tonight.
Lovely, lovely. So it is a mixed bag where we basically recommend some movies that people may not have seen. So it's a bit of a new horizon for some people. So it's some suggestions, something they might not usually watch. And you've come up with a fantastic list. And there was one on there which I have not seen, but you sold it to me so well just by having it on the list. It looks fantastic. So we'll talk about that. We're going to play some music. It's going to be a fantastic evening.
Yep.
So before we start, where can people check out you on social?
Ooh, on socials, I'm on Facebook, of course. I've got my Vee Von Claire Facebook page, aka Just in Time as well. So if you want to see a little bit of burlesque or a little bit of drag, you've got either option. And on Instagram as well, you've got my Vee Von Claire account. Or you can go check out my Drag King account, which is Just in Good Time.
And for those listening, you're not really good at drag racing. You are, in fact,
a drag king.
Drag king.
Yes.
How's that because it was kind of early days when you joined us, but you've won a few things. You've done so well.
Thank you. So yes, since seeing you last, I made top 3 of Drag Nation, which was one of the national-wide drag comps. Didn't take the top title, but you know what? I worked hard to get top 3, so I was happy with that. Drag Supreme, I've taken out crowns. I think it was top 3 or top 4 of our final a couple of years ago. But again, I still get called one of the best, and I get hired when they want the best. So, yes. Even now, the golden oldies down at Goolwa have seen a drag king for the first time, so that was fun.
Nice. It is really awesome, and it's good that not just that you do it, but you do it so well.
Thank you. I know, I sexually frustrate a lot of people.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can definitely see that happening. So I think last time you were here, you told us that this song sums up you as a person. So I thought it'd be a great way to start this evening. So let's get into a little bit of Vanessa Amorosi. Not a sentence I say often here on DVG, but let's do it. This one's for you. This is DVD. It is Dave's Video Graveyard for your Monday night, joined by Vee Von Claire, one of my favourites, and we are talking all about movies. And now to spring it on you, it is the quiz that the guests don't know about. So this is just a would you rather to get to know about you as a film fan.
Okay.
Harry Potter or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Good answer. Well, you're winning so far. Cher or Dolly Parton?
Cher.
Wow. First time, believe it or not. Of all the people we've asked, you're the first.
I'm sorry, she's a gay icon, so I'm doing that one for the gays.
Nice. I think everyone else does it for the chest size. So
I've already got that. We're good.
Nice. Yeah, you don't need it for
I don't need that.
Speaking of chest size, Selma Hayek or Pamela Anderson?
Pamela Anderson.
Good answer.
Baywatch.
Lord of the Rings or Back to the Future?
Oh, Back to the Future.
Good answer.
I've actually never seen Lord of the Rings.
That's fine. That's fine. Looking next, Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio?
Leo.
And do you have a specific Leo in mind when you say that?
Oh, see, this is where I'm going to get creepy because
Do it.
I'm a Gilbert Grape. Like,
wow.
That was the movie growing up, and that's the first Leo I remember.
That's fine.
And he played that character
Artie,
so well.
He was fantastic. Yeah. I think of that character, weirdly enough, every time I see a grasshopper. I just think of that.
See, for me, I actually have a brother who is autistic,
yep.
who has very similarities. So when I see that movie, I actually thought he played it very well, no matter what other people think. Personally, I thought he did it really, it was very tasteful. He didn't take it too far.
Well, with movies being subjective and art being subjective, it's what it means to you. It's not what everyone else thinks of it. It's a good answer.
Thanks.
Shawshank Redemption or Stand By Me?
Stand By Me.
Good answer. Edward Scissorhands or Beetlejuice?
Beetlejuice.
Good answer. The Predator or The Terminator?
Predator.
Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone?
Can I lie and say Van Damme?
That's fine. That's player 3 has entered the question. Sandra Bullock or Julia Roberts?
Sandra Bullock.
Good answer. I don't think anyone's going to pick Julia Roberts with that one. I couldn't think of anyone that was anywhere near Sandra.
I only like her in one movie.
Yeah, pretty much. The Witches or Matilda?
Matilda.
Best answer. Congratulations. You're welcome to come back.
Thank you.
That one, no one really knows, but that one...
Matilda, though, was the first movie I ever ran out of the cinema.
Really?
As soon as I saw Miss Trunchbull, I bolted. I was like, Mom, I need to go to the toilet. She's like, well, I'm like, I just need to go to the toilet. And then as soon as we came out, I'm like, can we go home now? She's like, no. I'm like, but I don't want to go back in there. She petrified me.
Any movie where the fat kid becomes the hero for eating cake, I'm like, we're finally getting represented in a movie.
As adults, we sit there going, we understand now.
Yes. The Lost Boys or Interview with a Vampire?
Interview with a Vampire.
Good answer. Good answer. I revisited that, and Brad Pitt's a huge sook in that movie.
Oh, he's a little bitch.
I didn't realise. I always remember because I just thought he was so cool when I was younger.
Well, let me say, he was the submissive.
Yes, watching it, I was like, oh, Louis, such a gimp. Batman or Spider-Man?
Batman.
Good answer. Will Ferrell or Adam Sandler?
Adam Sandler.
Good answer. Deadpool or Harlequin?
Deadpool.
Good answer. Aggro or Cheese TV?
Oh, how dare you. Oh, I'm going to go aggro.
Good answer. Pizza or burgers?
Pizza.
I change day to day, but I think a pizza with burgers on it.
Yeah. Oh, today I'm
or a
craving
small
pizza.
burger with pizza in it.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles or Ghostbusters?
Ninja Turtles.
Good answer. Aliens or Terminators?
Aliens.
Good answer. Grease or Rocky Horror?
Oh.
You gotta pick one.
You suck. Rocky Horror.
Good answer. Pulp Fiction or Goodfellas?
Pulp Fiction.
Fight Club or Seven?
7, because I've never seen Fight Club.
Oh, wow.
It's on my to watch list. Like, it's on my stand to watch list.
Well, I make you a promise to watch that movie on your list this evening.
Oh, right.
And you watch that.
Yes.
The Lion King or Aladdin? And no live action.
Oh, okay, we're not going live action. We're going Disney. As in, then I'm going to go...
You got to pick one.
Aladdin.
Forrest Gump or Titanic?
Forrest Gump.
Good answer. I can't think of anything that's anywhere close to Forrest Gump.
The Titanic went for too long. I got bored.
E.T. or Jurassic Park?
Jurassic Park.
Good answer. So that is the Sprung on You quiz. So you've done well.
I did it.
You've done it. You've passed.
I've
You're
passed.
welcome back because you
gosh.
picked Matilda. So that's the important one.
That was the important one.
You swerved at the beginning. I was like, oh no, she didn't choose for chest size. What are we gonna do? But you won me back with Matilda.
I've got to do my share.
That's it.
She's
representation.
Representation of my community.
Very good. Well, I think we might jump back into the music and then we'll start with your first choice. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. Let's do it.
Fantastic. This is 100.5 WOWFM. Don't forget, you can join in the conversation. Look for Dave's Video Graveyard on WOWFM on all your socials. Send us a message. Let us know where we've gone wrong and everything else. This is Dave's Video Graveyard. It is Dave's Video Graveyard. VVC is picking some of her favourite films to recommend. And the first suggestion this evening is from 1997, directed by Luc Besson, starring Bruce Willis, Mila Djokovic, who's incredible in this film, and Gary Oldman. Why did you choose this movie? Tell us about it.
It's, again, one of just my go-to movies. I never get sick of it. I know most of us can quote those specific lines and we use them on our daily. I'm not sure if you're not the only one now who, like, when you give out your ID or you get something checked, you're like,
Multipass, yep.
Yep.
100%.
Big bada boom. Like, we all, I don't know anyone who doesn't like this movie.
Yep.
Honestly, yeah.
I've got to say, it looks so good and it doesn't age. Like, a lot of movies, particularly special effects heavy movies in the 90s, you watch them now and they just look so drab or so pixelated, not looking great. This movie has aged so very well. And I do love revisiting it. A lot of practical, like, costumes and stuff, which are fantastic. Gary Oldman's almost unrecognizable, as he always is in his movies. And I just absolutely love this movie. Is it Luke Perry in the beginning of it as well, from 90210?
Oh, and when
they get locked in at the start.
Yeah, the 1914 scene of them digging up the...
Yes, Luke Perry. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So how often do you revisit this one?
Oh, at least once a year. Has to be at least once a year. Like, if we're skimming through Stan or Netflix and we're just like, can't find something, if I see Fifth Element, it's my go-to. Click, done.
And I had to laugh because I was reading some of the reviews from back when it came out, and I had to find it funny because no one talked about this movie without mentioning, like, Star Wars or Star Trek and comparing it to Blade Runner and things like that. But I think it's very unique.
Yeah.
It's very unique.
Absolutely.
And it's also one of those movies where I watched it when it came out, and, you know, I was pretty much a kid at the time, and I really enjoyed it for what it was, and then watched it as an adult, and you realize all that stuff in between that you're like, oh, I never noticed this when I was a kid. For those that don't know, in the 23rd century, the universe is threatened by an evil, and the only hope for mankind is the Fifth Element, who comes to Earth every 5,000 years to protect the humans with 4 stones. Of the 4 elements, fire, water, earth, and air. And a spacecraft is bringing the Fifth Element back to Earth, but is destroyed by the evil Mangalores, led by one Mr. Gary Oldman, with a very interesting headplate piece.
The sweep to the side, that fringe.
Did that inspire your hair?
No.
Is that?
Yeah, it looks like it. But no, that amazing, yes, that very memorable sweep. And also, I used to always love his little, like, desk creature that, like, came out and she looked so... I don't know if it was... I'm saying it's a she. Would come out and say hello and he just smacked it and it'd run away. But it was... I wanted one of those desk creatures for my own.
And I like that apparently the language that Lilo spoke in the movie was actually made up and it was a complete language.
Yeah.
That's insane amount of... And because apparently Luc Besson wrote this when he was fairly young and he just obsessed over it. So he'd go and do other writing jobs and he'd take something from that, come back and just keep working it to the point where it was so detailed. They basically had to usually they have to fill it out when they, come up with something. They're like, no, we're going to leave that out. We're going to leave that out. And what we got was just... And I remember 1997, this came out of nowhere. It was just, oh my God, there's this new epic, space opera, for lack of a better term.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Tucker is a standout in this film as well. Also,
now, funny fact, the original, that character was actually made for Prince.
That makes so much sense.
Sorry. He found the costumes too flamboyant and turned the role down.
Wow, that coming from Prince just makes no sense whatsoever.
And then this could have been a Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts movie instead.
I couldn't even imagine.
Because that didn't happen.
Say what you will about Bruce Willis, this is before he gave up. I'm not sure what broke, but it's like after The Sixth Sense, he's like, you know what? I don't have to try anymore, and I'm not going to. Because his movies just went down and down. But this is peak. He wants to be there.
Yep.
He's happy to bleach what hair he has left for the movie. Honestly,
that
it's...
little tuft, yes.
Yeah. It's such a great film. I don't know, have you seen... I think it's... I cannot think of the name of it, but it's Luc Besson's latest space opera. It's called Valerian or something. I cannot remember what it's called, but it's meant to be very vibey to this movie. But I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard lots of bad things.
Yeah, I love that opera. It's like the diva who performs on stage. Another little fun fact I found out today, that no one had met her until that scene. So until you actually see her come out and she's got the headpiece on and they just look up and see how tall she is, that's the first time they've ever seen her in that outfit. Was that first scene, and same with her being on stage. It was a first, that was a real response. Real reaction of them going, oh, holy crap, she's really tall.
My favourite scene in this entire movie is when the bad guys have hostages and they're held up and they're like, send someone in to negotiate. And Bruce Willis just walks in, or Corbin Dallas walks in and just shoots him straight in the head. Anyone else want to negotiate? Such a cool bit. The weapons in this movie are awesome. There's just so much cool stuff about this movie.
Exactly.
Awesome.
That's why it's definitely the go-to.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll jump into my first choice because this is my show. How very dare you. And believe it or not, from the same writer and director as The Fifth Element. So it all ties together. This is DVG. From the writer and director of The Fifth Element, my first choice is Leon, a.k.a. The Professional. It was released as The Professional overseas and Leon, or maybe it was the other way around, but now it's just known as Leon the Professional. It follows a 12-year-old girl played by a very young Natalie Portman, whose dad is hiding drugs in their apartment for some corrupt DEA agents, and he decides to make a bit of money. He'll skim 10% of the cocaine and cut it. So he does, and the DEA test it and find out that it was 100%. And a few months later, after storing it, because they just pay to keep it in his house, and they find out a few months later that the quality has gone down, so he's clearly stealing from it. So he's given 24 hours to tell them what happened. The 24 hours pass, and he does nothing. So the big bad of this movie, can you guess who it's played by, being that this is written and directed by Luc Besson? It's Gary Oldman.
It is Gary Oldman, that's what I thought.
Gary Oldman is at his best in this movie. He's so menacing. He's a corrupt DEA agent. So he comes back and kills the whole family. So the boy, the wife, and the father. But the girl is actually at the shops getting groceries at the time, played by Natalie Portman. She comes home and realizes what's happened and pretends to be not in that house. She pretends to live next door. So she walks past the apartment, sees what's happened, and knocks on the neighbour's door. The neighbour being Leon, who is the professional hitman. Yeah. So he realizes what's happening and lets her in and doesn't want anything to do with her. She begs and begs and wants to be trained as a hitman. So weirdly enough, he trains the 12-year-old girl to become a hitman. It's so poetic, the movie. It's on IMDb. I reckon it's in the top 10 of IMDb's movies of all time.
Wow.
Me and my wife revisited this one on just Sunday just gone, and that's why I put it in the list, because it is almost a flawless film. And one thing I like about it is Luc Besson, coming obviously from France, has a different eye for action. So the way this movie is shot, it's all... You know when movies are shot in like New York, they're all shot like high up and everything looks like big and grand. Everything in this movie is shot like ground level and like mid-focus, so everything's close up and stuff. So even though it's a big action movie, it doesn't feel like that because it's more so about the characters because the camera's so close to them at all times. Like I said, Gary Oldman just gives a performance of the most unhinged DEA agent ever. And my favourite scene would probably be Matilda steals Leon's guns and goes to the DA office, pretends to be a delivery girl, and actually gets Gary Oldman alone and is going to kill him, but doesn't go through with it, and he pulls the gun on her. And it's one of those movies. I think a lot of action movies have a lot to answer for copying this movie, because it's like you have your Die Hards and all those big action movies where there's all just one-liners and dumb back and forth between the good guy and bad guy. This one has a lot more what's called a parlor scene. So the good guy and the bad guy talk. So Matilda has a whole scene with Gary Oldman where she's going to kill him and they talk it out and stuff. And Gary Oldman explains that, he's going to kill her instead. And it's just such a good movie, honestly. It tugs at the heartstrings. It's one of those action movies that's hiding everything else. As in you go, oh, this is just a dumb action movie. But you're watching, you're like, this is a drama. It's a comedy. It's just got so much thing. And Leon is played by Jean Reno, who a lot of people know for the 98 Godzilla movie, which was terrible. He's the French guy.
He's the French guy.
Because that's pretty much what he was in everything after this movie. It's like, there's the French guy. But he was fantastic in this movie. And if you haven't seen it, you have to see it. That's the law. It's the law.
It's the law.
It is the law. So starting things off tonight with two Luc Besson movies. Like I said, it was kind of diminishing returns because I'm just looking at the rest of his career. He was responsible for Lucy, which I never saw. La Femme Nikita. I did see Lucy, actually. The ending is fantastic.
I love that. That was a twist. Like, I wasn't expecting that. I was very impressed.
It was.
I've only recently seen it and I was very happy. Considering I'm not a massive Scarlett Johansson fan, I actually was very impressed with her acting in that.
I didn't realize that he directed all the Taken movies, which I find quite surprising. Yeah, honestly, do yourself a favor and check it out. It is such a fantastic movie. He also did, obviously, The Fifth Element, which was his next movie after Leon. He's done a lot of work with Mila Djokovic, and yeah, just really worth checking out all of his stuff. Except for, I'm trying to find the name of it, which I cannot do. It is... I can't find it. But yeah, one of his other movies is not good from what I've heard. So let's get back into the music as we continue through this list. This is DVG. Hacksaw Ridge, a movie I have not seen, but after watching the trailer, looks absolutely incredible. Directed by Mel Gibson. It has Mel all over it because
it so does.
As much as you can disagree with him as a person, he is a flawless director and his production design is second to none. This movie looks incredible, starring Andrew Garfield, aka the Amazing Spider-Man himself, who may or may not be in the new Spider-Man movie. No one knows. This movie looks incredible. World War II, American Army medic Desmond T. Doss. He served during the Battle of Okinawa, and he refuses to kill people and becomes the first man in American history to receive a Medal of Honor without firing a shot. So more so than a war movie, it looks like a survival movie.
It is. So yeah, because of his religious beliefs, he believes that he doesn't need to carry a gun because he wants to be a medic. That's his job. He believes that being a medic, he doesn't need to carry a gun. I'm just going to go save people, and that I do my job. That's it. So he's bullied and They bully him, harass him. They try to get him kicked out. They do whatever they can to belittle him, so he leaves, and he's just like, no, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and my job is to save lives. And yeah, I think there's lots of different, from what I was looking at today, there in the 3 weeks that he was in Okinawa, he saved over 300 people. This is actually a real story. This really happened. This man only died, I think, was it 97? So this is a real story. Like, this actually happened in World War II. This man saved, on one particular day, he saved up to 75 to 100 people. They don't have a particular number. But yeah, the man just never gave up.
And it was made on a budget of $40 million. Went on to make $180 million, which, if there's anything that Mel Gibson knows how to do, it's how to make money with a religious tinged movie.
Oh, yes.
Because it does look very church-inspired in a lot of ways.
It is. Like, as I was saying to you before we came in tonight, was that when I walked past Coorong, our little Bible bookshop of Adelaide,
yes.
There were posters everywhere promoting when this was coming out into the cinemas, because I did not believe that it was actually such a high religious movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just thought it was a World War One, like an army movie.
I remember when this first came out, well, not even when it first came out, within the last few years, someone brought it up to me and they're like, have you seen this movie? I'm like, yes, it is so brutal, and had this huge conversation before I realized that I was talking about Bone Tomahawk and they were talking about Hacksaw Ridge. I'm like, kind of same thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, this movie looks incredible. And you were saying it was filmed in Australia.
Yeah, so Mel Gibson knows how to turn a Sydney farm into looking like Okinawa, which I was very impressed by.
And that's not just from having a big night of drinking.
Exactly. But yeah, I was very impressed. And also a little fact I found out was Mel Gibson was originally actually supposed to be in the movie. He was supposed to play the Vince Vaughn character, which is the head honcho of the team.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm actually very happy that Vince Vaughn was the actor.
Oh, don't tell me that, because I do not like Vince Vaughn.
Really? He played like
Other than in Brawl on Cell Block 99, where he breaks from his usual thing.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he's probably different in this as well.
Oh yeah, he's a very serious actor. There's no gimmicks, there's no jokes. He is in your face, screaming, telling him what a little dirty shitbag he is.
Nice.
Excuse the language.
Oh, good. How often did you revisit this one? Is this looks like kind of, because it says there was a lot of comparisons to Saving Private Ryan with this. No?
No, I have now seen Saving Private Ryan, and I do not see the similarities at all.
Have you seen Shaving Ryan's Privates? That's
on my to-watch list.
Yes, well, keep it on there. I was going to say, I'm not a huge fan of war movies. I've enjoyed movies like ones that I know my pop would hate because he was obsessed with movies. So, I loved Fury with Brad Pitt, the tank movie. There's been a few others. Saving Private Ryan was incredible, but at the same time, I still have a disdain for for war movies.
Yeah.
But then you get to this movie and it gets compared a lot to Saving Private Ryan, and a lot of people say it's the best thing since.
I give you a challenge. You need to watch 1917.
I was only reading about that today and I'm still blown away, and I can't wait to see it because of the single shot takes of everything. That's incredible.
I have never cried during watching a World War movie ever. This one made me teary because, again, it's that journey of those two guys. Breathtaking.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to we'll go gritty to gritty. So my next choice, let's hear the trailer. Now, I only saw this one in the much later years. It is Bringing Out the Dead from 1999. I didn't see it when it came out. I've only seen it in the last year, and I do not know why I was surprised that Martin Scorsese made an incredible film. It was around about the time because Nick Cage was doing a lot of gritty stuff, so he'd done 8mm. Then he did this. It follows basically one night a paramedic that's completely burned out from his job. And it follows him on like a really frantic night out. And the thing that I really love about it is the way that this movie poetically ties together. So background characters from the start of the movie end up being people that he's called out to later in the movie, and it all kind of overlaps.
Wow.
He goes to basically score drugs because he can't sleep. He's insomniac from his work. So he's like, well, I'm going to do drugs to help me sleep. And just the way this movie is shot, like, because, you know, as he gets more and more, his insomnia plays more and more, the visuals of the movie change. Like, things get a kind of bit trippy and stuff. Some of the actors that are in this movie, you got, you know, John Goodman shows up. You've got Patricia Arquette, Nicolas Cage, Tom Sizemore, one of the most unlikable humans on earth, is always, if he shows up in a movie, you know it's going to be gritty and you know it's going to be good. And one of my favourite New Zealand actors, Cliff Curtis himself, Uncle Bully from Once Were Warriors, he shows up in this movie. Written by Paul Schrader, who many people know is a very well-known filmmaker and writer. This movie, I will give a warning. If you're not feeling good, don't bother.
Oh.
Honestly, it's the feel-bad hit of the summer kind of thing. But it is a very gritty, and from what I assume, from what you hear about paramedics, a very real portrayal of what it's like on that job. So it is quite frantic, and just, I think, you know, Martin Scorsese, you know, Wolf of Wall Street, Goodfellas, Casino, all these iconic movies that he's made. This one, I think he plays most with the visuals of the film, because there's a scene at the end where they're angle grinding and all the sparks are flying and it's all slow motion and it just looks so trippy. It looks like the background of, like, you know, a Baz Luhrmann music video kind of thing. It's just really bizarre. But I loved it. And it's one of those movies where, do you ever have a movie where you hear about it for years and you don't bother? And then when you finally get around to it, you're blown away, but you can't talk about it because it's too late. Like, people have been telling you for years. Similar thing happened when I finally got around to watching Breaking Bad, because I watched it years after everyone else. And so by the time I saw it, no one wanted to talk about it. Like, oh, the show we've been telling you about for years. Yeah, but I watched it now. Yeah, so honestly, I loved it. I only recommend it. You got to be in a good place to watch it. Is the best way I'll put it, because it does sit with you. There's a lot of amazing character actors pop up. So you get Ving Rhames in there. It's Nicolas Cage. I think it's because he won the Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas, which is probably the most heartbreaking movie of all time. And this movie was actually a commercial failure at the time. It was made for 32 mil and it only made 16, which is, I don't know why it didn't do well. It may be the subject, like the movie's subject, but it's so much better than I realized. So if you get a chance, check it out. But like I said, not if you're not in a good mood, because it, you know, it sits with you. Anyway, we're going to get back into the music. This is DVG with VVC. In 1995, the world said hello to one of the greatest comedy films of all times. It is a sequel to 1994's Ace Ventura Pet Detective. We are talking about Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, picked by my good friend VVC. Now, I've got to say, I managed to see this movie and the original Mortal Kombat movie in the same day at the cinema, and to this day is the greatest day of theatre. I don't think life has been as good ever since, other than the birth of my children and my wedding day. I've never had a day as good as seeing both those absolute classics that went straight into my heart. And I just wish we could go back in time and someone could film my face watching Jim Carrey come out of an animatronic rhino for the first time. I don't think I've ever laughed as hard as I did that day. I think part of me broke and I cannot laugh like that ever again. Why have you chosen one of the greatest films on earth?
Because it is one of the greatest films on earth. I still remember the first time I saw this movie. It was at my brother's house. I'm pretty sure I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old. Pretty sure I wasn't supposed to be watching it, but it was the closest thing to a child's movie my brother owned, so he put it on. And I loved it from start to finish. I think this is one of the movies I can quote the most. I'll be driving and I'll start singing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang because I can. Like, it's just... still step on the back of people's shoes and say flat tire.
I cannot help it. It was ingrained in me in 1995 and it has stuck with me ever since. This is from director Steve Odenkirk. Now, for those who don't know, have you seen the movie Kung Pao?
No.
It's basically an old kung fu movie where it's been a modern guy has been edited into it, and it's silly.
Yeah.
And I highly, if you love this, you will also love that movie because it's just as stupid, if not more so. But honestly, this movie is a timeless classic. I think every time someone used an overhead projector after seeing this film, I'd either try to put goggles on them or play with their tuners. Man, this movie is timeless. It was so funny. I was reading like a toy article where it's like top 10 uses of toys in movies, and number 9 was like the Slinky in Ace Ventura When Nature Calls. It's just joke after joke after joke with this movie. I even remember the original teaser trailer was the opening that spoofs Cliffhanger.
Yes.
That was the trailer that they used to show. And if you didn't think, because obviously 1994 was a huge year for Jim Carrey. He'd done The Mask, Ace Ventura, and Dumb and Dumber all in the one year.
Whoa.
So this was the follow-up to that year. And if you didn't think he was committed to his comedy, watching Jim Carrey regurgitate worms into the mouth of birds, even if they're not real birds, that is, what a scene, what an incredible movie.
It's, I swear, to this day, we all use a line or a song or something from that movie on our daily basis. Like, we can't help ourselves. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Like, it just naturally comes out because it's what we were brought up with.
And you must be the Monopoly guy. Like a glove, I still say when I park at the shopping centre.
When I reverse parallel park, that is my like a glove.
Man, I love this movie. It's quite funny when like any of the actors show up in something else, and I'm just like, "What do I know you from?" And then I'm like, "Oh, you're that guy."
You're that guy.
I really like. There is a Batman shirt that's like the Bat logo, but it says Shikaka on it, and I was like, "I've got to have that shirt." This movie inspired me to get a tattoo of the greatest moment of a film of all time, and I wear it proudly.
Oh, it is a good tattoo. I'm very proud of you for that tattoo.
Thank you. How often did you revisit this one?
Oh, again, this has to be a yearly. Like I want to say Christmas time when it's hot and you want to feel the heat from the movie, and you got the heat and the surroundings of. You
want to feel hot as the inside of a rhino while you watch it.
Exactly. I have to say, this character is on my list of drag kings. Just something. It has to be done.
This and Terminator 2 are the movies that I have on VHS, both sell-through and X-Rental, Laserdisc, DVD, like every form of it I have of these two movies because this one's important. And I even have the video store standee that stands 6 foot tall of this movie. It is my pride and joy.
Oh, I love it.
Man, I love this movie so very much. The first one is pretty good.
It's okay. And then again, it's when you're an adult and then you kind of watch it back and go, okay, that wasn't very appropriate. But we didn't realize that at the time because we were children.
Well, even if you play the race card and watch some of the tribal stuff in this one, you're just move right along. This movie's not cancelled yet, so I'm still on board. Yeah, oh man, this movie is fantastic. I'm going to have to look at my list. I don't think anything is quite as good as that. But let's jump on to the next one. You're listening to DVG. It is Dave's Video Graveyard. I am talking about the next choice that I picked. It is the film Silver Bullet, based on the novella by the same name from Stephen King. It was released the year I was born, 1985, and it stars Corey Haim from The Lost Boys, Gary Busey from every amazing action movie of the 80s, Everett McGill, Megan Follows, Terry O'Quinn, should I say. It is such a fantastic movie because it's got that real Goonies vibe to me and Stranger Things in the sense that it is a horror movie, but the main character is a kid. And the main character is played by Marty, who's the main character. He is actually paraplegic and in a wheelchair, and his uncle's a bit of an inventor, so he basically builds a hybrid wheelchair motorbike and that's called the Silver Bullet. And so he just rocks around town on this amazing wheelchair, and he starts being convinced. People in the small town they live in start getting killed every time there's a full moon, and so he's convinced that there's a werewolf in town. So he decides to go hunting. One night he encounters the werewolf and shoots it in the eye, and with a firework. And after he does that, he goes to church the following day, and the priest has an eye patch on. And he's like, oh my God. And so it's one of those movies where he's convinced that there's a werewolf. No one else believes there's a werewolf. And it's just a really, really cool werewolf movie. Like I said, based on the story by Stephen King. The practical gore is really cool because it's the 80s. So it's your... This is the kind of movie, I know you're a massive fan of Sleepaway Camp.
Yes.
This is the movie you'd see before then at the double feature, where it's not as brutal.
Yeah.
It's not quite as, cult favourite as that, but it belongs as the 80s slasher. The werewolves look pretty cool. Nothing like American Werewolf in London or The Howling, but still they look pretty cool. You're a huge horror fan,
I
yeah?
love it's not horror. It's my 80s horror because it was so bad that it was fantastic.
It still is.
It still is to this day. Like you said, American Werewolf in London. Again, go-to horror movie. Love it. Don't care how bad it is. It's that good. Because at that time, that makeup and those props, and that was so new. So everyone was like, oh my God, it's amazing. And even you look back at it now and go, they were pretty creative, using coffee and strawberry topping to make blood.
Yeah. Having the Muppets, Nazis and Muppets all in one scene. What a film. That movie is fantastic. I've got nothing but love for American Werewolf. Have you seen American Werewolf in Paris?
Yes.
My goodness, that's so bad it's bad.
Yep.
It's like the opposite of
It's like, why did you even bother?
Oh, so...
Good try. Pat on the back.
So sad.
Good try.
Let's get into the music before we continue this evening. This is DVD. Some movies are rated R just for, certain content. Everything about this movie makes it an R-rated movie. It is from 1998. I've chosen Very Bad Things, and I need to preface this. Don't forget that this movie was made in 1998. It would not fly today. It is so bad on so many levels, but it was just so gritty, and I think I watched it. I was a little bit too young at the time to see it. I saw it, and it really left a mark. It is such a disturbing, messed up movie. So basically, a group of mates go to Vegas. It's kind of The Hangover if The Hangover was a super thriller horror movie. So they go on their Bucks night in Vegas, and while they're there, Jeremy Piven's character accidentally, whilst making love with one of the entertaining girls, goes up against the wall, not realizing there's a metal hook for the coats in the shower. So that's how the movie begins. And then they decide that rather than do anything about it, they will hide the body.
Of course.
And while they're doing that, the security guard finds out. So they now have got two bodies to worry about. And the reason I've always loved this movie is I grew up in the 90s thinking Christian Slater was the coolest actor on earth. I just wanted to be him. I thought he was so cool. So seeing him in this, where he's the most unredeemable, terrible human of all time. And I always loved, it ends at their wedding, because it leads up to the wedding. Cameron Diaz is a control freak, and about halfway through the movie, she finds out what they've done, and rather than, divorce or, call it off and stuff, she's like, you are not going to ruin my day with this. And so she becomes the thing, and so she's like, well, since we've got a body to get rid of, and that guy who's played by Daniel Stern from Home Alone, he's going to give it away, we need to get rid of him. And so she starts instigating the murders. And it culminates in a scene at the wedding where Jon Favreau, who's now an amazing Star Wars director and stuff, he ends up having it off and fighting with Christian Slater with a chainsaw at his wedding. They're all wearing white tuxes. And it's the most vivid scene where they come out absolutely covered in blood, but with their white tuxedos in. And a younger me was like, if I ever get married, I want a white tuxedo covered in fake blood because that looks amazing. Like I said, honestly, there is no, some movies where you're like, well, that's the good guy. That's the moral compass. No one in this movie is a good guy. Everyone is terrible. It's written and directed by Peter Berg, but honestly, I highly recommend anyone that hasn't seen it, just because they don't make movies like this anymore, and they won't make movies like this anymore. It was made for $30 million. It only made $21 million. Didn't do very well, but honestly, if you get a chance, Very Bad Things. It's one of those movies I saw when pay TV, when we first got it back in the day, and this was on like constantly. So I watched it pretty much every time. And it's one of those movies where just when you think everything that's bad could happen, it gets worse.
It gets worse.
It gets worse. So, yeah, if you like, imagine if Quentin Tarantino directed The Hangover, and that's what you get with this movie. It is all kinds of messed up. So that's my next recommendation as we move right along. This is 100.5 WOWFM. Let's have a look at the next movie. It is, where are we looking? It is right. I cannot find it. I'm doing really well. We'll go. Let's play a song while I look for something.
It's disappeared.
Yeah, this is DVG. I refuse to believe this film came out in 2014. It just feels so new in my mind.
I know.
Like, honestly, you have chosen Big Hero 6, a Disney film. It has as much heart as, Wreck-It Ralph, any of those movies. A special bond develops between a plus-size inflatable robot Baymax and prodigy hero Hamadi, who together team up with a group of friends and form a band of high-tech heroes. So it is a superhero movie, but it's done differently and it's done really well. I just love the heart in this movie. The animation of the microbots in this is incredible. It looks so good.
Unreal.
So tell us about this film.
Oh, where to start? But my problem is any Pixar film, I don't know why they always have to kill off a family member. I need to find a Pixar movie or a child's animation where I'm not bawling my eyes out either at the beginning or the end of the movie.
It's all a ploy to get you emotionally invested in the film.
Oh, and this one does.
Do you need a moment? Are you going to be okay?
I need a tissue. No. I honestly don't know where to start. This is just, it's such a good movie. I don't cope when family members die.
No, that's fair enough. Fair enough. I think this movie is such a perfect film. The way Baymax is animated, because essentially he's a giant cuddly balloon / like snowman looking creature.
It reminds me of the Doughboy.
Yes.
From Ghostbusters.
I love that to make him a hero, they give him a suit of armor, but it's still just the way it fits him is the way my clothes fit me. And I always think of it when he's wearing it and he's got the muffin top. Oh man, this movie is fantastic. So many great voice actors in this as well. You've got like TJ Miller always shows up, so he's in a lot of the How to Train Your Dragons, but James Cromwell as Robert Callahan. Maya Rudolph. It's so much fun, this movie. And because from I reckon about 2005 to 2010, there was no real way. It became a lot cheaper to release like computer animated films.
Yes.
So there was no real quality control. So you're getting all. I personally don't like any of the Ice Age films. And so you get all those movies were coming along, and it just became cookie cutter where they were all the same, just set in a different location and stuff. This come along and it was incredible. I believe it was based off a popular comic series, and it shows because it's got a very deep background and backstory. And my kids loved it. And at the time we saw it at the movies, and it was, I think, the last time I remember one of those really amazing tie-ins where every cup, every thing, every drink, every popcorn thing was something really unique and different to this movie. I still see them pop up in a lot of op shops and stuff, but you revisit this one a lot?
Oh yes, this is definitely a go-to. If me and my son cannot decide a movie, it's just our go-to. Yeah, love it. Even if you message me, my ringtone is ba-la-la-la.
Nice.
And I've had that ringtone for ages and refused to get rid of it.
I don't think my daughter, who's 5, has even seen this movie, but she knows that when we fist bump, it's ba-la-la-la.
Yep, that's what me and my son do. That's our farewell. If we're going somewhere, fist bump, ba-la-la-la.
It is so good. My favourite scene in this movie is where Baymax springs a leak, so steals the sticky tape from the police station, And it's just such a funny scene. And the way he acts drunk,
Yeah.
the lesser field he
We
is.
went out a window.
What a fantastic movie.
Fluffy
I
baby.
did see a thing where it's like the mum, they're like, why have they got to make her so attractive with her proportions? And everyone's like, that's definitely a Rule 43 on the internet for her. No, that is awesome. Fantastic choice. I think it is time that we heard a little bit more music and then we talk about your final choice this evening.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, time flies. It is DVG as we continue the music. This is 100.5 WOWFM. It is the second film in the Cornetto trilogy from director Edgar Wright from 2007. Vee Von Claire has chosen Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz.
Tell us about it.
Oh, it's so good. How can you not like this movie? I actually was never a fan of Shaun of the Dead until...
How very dare you, but
I
yes,
know,
go on.
it wasn't until I I did the 3, I did the trilogy, and then I went, okay, yeah, no, it makes sense. So now it's back in my list. I don't mind it. Still not 100%, but we're there. But yes, Nicholas Angel is too good at his job.
He
And
is.
his seniors are getting a little annoyed that he's too good and he's doing all the writing and all the right things, and all the lazy cops are getting annoyed, so they ship him off.
They send him to the small town.
Yep.
And I do like jumping to... They send him... It's... I'm just trying to think the name of the town. West County Village. And I love that while he's gone, all the statistics of the highest ranking police station goes to crap because obviously it's all of his hard work. While he's there, some weird stuff's going on in town and he doesn't quite understand what. It really harkens back to the cool sci-fi horror movies of the 1970s in the sense that there's a lot of secret society stuff going on in the small town. I think one of the coolest bad guys you'll ever find is, I'm totally forgetting his name, Timothy Dalton, who was James Bond that I never liked. And honestly, he's so smarmy and evil in this movie.
So cocky, you just want to bitch slap him.
I always have loved it. I never... You know when something's funny and you don't really know why, but it just always sticks with you. You know when the other two detectives that are in the town don't want to work with him and they're giving him crap and they go to walk away and they do that leaning thing where one leans and the other one leans next, and it's not funny, but it's so funny because they do it. I've never understood why I found that bit so funny, but it cracks me up visually every time. And I do like because it's a buddy cop movie, but it lives in a world where all the other buddy cop movies exist. So they're always referencing other movies, particularly Point Break.
Yep.
I love the questions he asks where he's like, have you ever shot your gun up in the air and just yelled because you can't bring yourself to pull the trigger? No, I haven't.
No, I have not.
Oh, man, this movie is fantastic. And the gore will catch you by surprise.
Yeah. For me, it's the photographer at the church.
Yes.
And it's the full decapitation, and you don't see it coming.
No.
And you just, oh my God.
And it leans into those like BBC midday type movies, like you used to see the murder mysteries on ABC, where it was like, you know, some old lady sorting out the case of like someone's been like stealing my roses, and then it turns out to be a murder mystery and stuff. It leans into that, but then it also leans heavily into like the action films of the 80s and 90s. The tone, if you know Edgar Wright stuff, the tone, you'll be right at home with it. But if not, it will catch you off guard for sure because it's all over the place. Super violent, R-rated movie. And like we said, it falls between Shaun of the Dead and The World's End. Now, you said earlier you're not a fan of End of the World movies. So how do you go with that one?
Oh, that's different.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
You can
There's
deal
not a
with that.
giant tsunami coming over to drown the whole world. Like
True. So you're more of Day After Tomorrow and stuff like
where
that.
it's so realistic it actually could possibly happen. They're the ones I don't watch.
Fair enough. Fair call. How often do you watch this one?
Oh, again, this is our Christmas time one.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a constant rotation one.
Oh yeah, it is. It's up there. Like I've always got a big heart when it comes to BBC TV. If it's TV, movies, I don't know what it is that they do, but their style of comedy just hits home. It's my style.
It sounds funny though, but I think because a lot of the dry, sarcastic humor in this really resonates. And then when Edgar Wright made Baby Driver, which is a very American blockbuster, you lost a lot of that heart that you get with the dry sarcasm of the characters. And even when characters are meant to like each other, you don't get the chemistry that, like, honestly, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in this have the most incredible, like, on-screen chemistry.
Yeah. Oh, they're besties.
Yeah, and it just really rings true. I love everything they're in. Like, did you ever see Paul?
Yes.
I loved that movie.
Paul was fantastic.
I think that's a very underappreciated movie. It's a lot funnier than people realise.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, Hot Fuzz 2017. It was made for $12 million, which is pretty much nothing.
No.
Like, that is a low budget. Made $80 million and, of course, was part of an amazing trilogy. Not enough people enjoyed The World's End, I think. I think that's the black sheep of the trilogy, but I think it's fantastic. So do yourself a favour if you haven't seen Hot Fuzz and get it. It streams on everything, so make sure you get out there and check it out. We're going to go to my final movie. I'll bring everything down with a sad, gritty film. This is DVG as we continue here. Much like Bringing Out the Dead that I talked about earlier this evening, this movie is the feel-bad hit of the summer from 1990, I reckon it's 98. I'm talking about 1997, 187, starring Samuel L. Jackson. It's about a teacher 15 months after being stabbed 9 times by a student at work, a high school teacher in New York City. Mr. Garfield starts working in an LA school as a substitute teacher, trying to get his full-time contract as a teacher, and he refuses to be a victim anymore. So it's kind of a gritty retelling of Dangerous Minds with Michelle Pfeiffer. Now, we were talking earlier off air, Grease 2, Catwoman. We're both big fans of Michelle Pfeiffer's work.
Oh, yes.
However, this is a much grittier version of her film Dangerous Minds. It is so incredibly gritty the way it's handled, because Samuel L. Jackson in the LA school, there is a lot of gangs, and he's basically, no, I'm not having it anymore. So he starts kicking them out of school, and they start threatening him and, throwing stuff at his house and, fighting back and stuff. And he keeps pushing back, and it just escalates. And you kind of don't see it coming, but it goes all out by the end of this movie. And it's one of those movies where on paper you're like, oh, I kind of get what it is, but you don't. It has some incredible powerhouse performances. Samuel L. Jackson just steals the show, as he quite often did in the 1990s. So do yourself a favor and check out 187, because it's not a good time, but it is incredible.
Yep.
Awesome. So that is our list of 10, believe it or not. We've still got 15 minutes. So what else is going on?
What is going on? I don't know. I think we went through that much quicker than I expected.
Yes, definitely.
How was it good?
Now, you did mention earlier there were some movies that didn't make it onto your list.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, like I said to you, if you gave me a list of my 5 top TV shows, I could have smashed that out easily.
What have you been watching?
I've been watching Red Dwarf. You know I'm a Red Dwarf girl.
Yes, you are.
That's my go-to. And I've also been watching Handmaid's Tale, which I'm like you, like with Breaking Bad. Everyone's watched it. I'm now watching it. So I've been telling all my mums at school, I'm like, right, I'm up to this episode when this happens and she's done this and they've done that. And they go, oh, you haven't got up to the good part yet. So that's what I'm getting through. But no, some of the movies that didn't make my list, you've got Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.
Incredible film.
That's incredible. Trainspotting.
Yep. Great movie.
I was nearly going to put The Goonies purely because
you saw that for the first time.
I finally watched it last week for the first time ever.
Tell us what you thought. It's overrated.
I honestly did think it was overrated, and I got confused.
As did I.
Because I think at that time there were about 3 different movies where it was about kids who go on an adventure and they find. So there's one, I think it's Stand By Me. Is that the one where they find the body?
Stand By Me, they go to find the dead body. Yep.
So that's what I thought the Goonies were. So I'm watching the movie going, so where's the dead body? When does that happen? So, and that's the thing is, like you said, it's like the Stranger Things where kids go off to an adventure and they do things and find stuff and it's all just, they collaborate. So it's all so similar that you forget which one's which.
Yeah, the Goonies was not a childhood movie for me. Like, a lot of people always rated it so highly. And for me, I'm like, I'd rather watch E.T. I'd rather watch all the classics. Yeah. Directed by Richard Donner, who did the Superman movies and the Lethal Weapon movies, which I'm a huge fan of. But yeah, the Goonies never resonated with me. And so often people come on here and it's one of their 10 favorite movies of all time, and they're like singing the praises, and that's the one time I'm like, it's not for me. Yeah. It's not for me.
I'm always like that. I'm always that. I prefer a B movie or a C grade movie, and everyone's like, oh, but you need to see like Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, no, I don't think I need to waste those 9 hours of my life. I'm pretty good, thanks. I've seen The Hobbit, and I was...
Well, The Hobbit's terrible compared to the first thing. Yeah, I think
didn't mind The Hobbit. I kind of went, yep, cool, done. I've done The Hobbit. Now I don't need to see the rest. And now this one was from my mum. My mum was like, why don't you do 7 Brides for 7 Brothers? Because you love Calamity Jane and all your Gene Kelly movies so much, you need to do that one. And because I know our audience is a little bit younger, I didn't want to put them through that pain.
Oh, it's fine. Like, it's so funny, like the amount of times that we have guests that pick black and white movies and I instantly write it off. I'm like, nope, it's black and white. Yeah. Nope. No,
well, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, it was not black and white, but it's famous for its dance because it was all done in one take. It had your beautiful watercolor painted background that you knew was fake as hell. But the problem I had with, like, the reason why I didn't go onto my list was purely because there is a scene where these 7 brothers decide, nah, screw it, we want to marry these women. We're going to literally kidnap these women from their house in the middle of the night and put them in our little wooden carriage with our horses and steal them away back to our home. We're going to make a big avalanche happen so their families can't reach their kids because we're going to try and rape and pillage them. But that doesn't happen. And so the little things like that, I kind of went, we'll leave that one for today. Yeah. We'll come back to it.
I was going to say, was it made in 2021?
No.
It sounds very modern.
Oh, no, it was definitely not. But yes, no, so little ones like that did not make the list tonight, but Grease 2 almost made the list too.
Honestly, that movie is a timeless, underrated classic.
Yeah.
And people need to respect it for the amazing movie
At least the ending wasn't a fake car flying into the sky.
Exactly. And when Michael does fly into the sky, it makes sense because he made the jump.
Yeah. He didn't die.
He didn't die. I've got to say, like, you think of, all 2021, everyone watches and, cancels movies and says this is this and, it was a product of its time. Let's Do It for Our Country is such a scene that if you brought that up in 2021, things wouldn't go well.
We're going to lose our virginity because America said so.
But then it also to be a trick. So it's like, ooh, yikes.
We have to do it for our country. It's such a classic. It had such good songs that were so underrated. And like I said to you before, Michelle Pfeiffer sitting at the top of a ladder, grinding away while she's singing about how she wants a cool rider. I saw nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. I think I wanted to be a cool rider because of this film.
I wanted to sing while bowling and dancing and sliding down the laneway. Like, what's wrong with that?
I spent most of my childhood watching Grease 2, not realising we're going to score tonight, man. I'm like... Yeah, they're going to go bowling. Yeah, this makes total sense. One thing that I always loved about the second Grease is Craterface, which coolest name of a character ever, from Grease 1, is still the bad guy in Grease 2, and they're now a motorbike gang, the Scorpions.
And what, he'd have to be, like 35 in that second movie by now?
You'd have to be. What about Sonny in the first one and Putsy? They're like mid-40s.
All of them were in their 30s during that.
It's so funny.
I don't think anyone was actually of age, ever.
Because remember how the start of Grease 1 and 2, it's all squished in, like in tall?
Yeah.
I remember when DVDs first came out, if you watched them on an old TV, that's how old DVDs looked. And I'm like, this just looks like the start of Grease 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And every year, because my wife is a school teacher, so it is a tradition at the end of every holiday, I keep posting back to school on her page, and she gets so upset.
Oh.
But I think it's lovely.
It is nice. I got one more for you.
Yeah.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Speaking of movies that don't hold up well.
Oh, come on. Revenge of the Nerds is like lambda. You can't fault them. They just want to be cool and lose their virginities and eat pie.
Oh, that's what, we did American Pie for the podcast, and I was like, man, so many teenage comedies were about virginities.
Oh, big time. That was the whole point of like the 70s and Bush and pies and smoking weed and being cool. But
we should do a podcast episode and you come along and we just do teenage sex comedies.
Oh, I'm
totally
down.
unrated.
I'm totally down.
Now,
I think majority of us have watched those.
As a super old man that I am, I have joined TikTok just to watch. At first, I thought it was to watch people falling off push bikes because that's what I was doing mostly. But I think I liked one too many busty videos, and now it's either people falling off push bikes or girls with big boobs. So I'm a big fan of TikTok, is what I'm saying. Speaking of, you do really well on TikTok.
Oh, I do. You weren't supposed to mention my TikTok. But yes, I do have TikTok under the same name. It is Vee Von Claire on TikTok. I don't post very often. It's more when I've got the motivation and the confidence more than anything. I don't have a theme. I don't do particular things.
Tell you what,
I just do
start falling
everything.
off push bikes.
Okay.
And you'll always get a like from me.
Oh, thanks.
That's what
or
I'm
what
there
I
for.
might, I'll just be in a bra and we'll go down like a bumpy road in just
And
a push
fall-
bike
and
and
then
we'll just
fall
bounce.
off.
Yeah.
It would be the ultimate video. Before we go, let everyone know where they can find out, where they can follow you on socials.
All right. So again, we have on my Instagram, we've got my Vee Von Claire account, which is just me being me. Also on Instagram, we have my Justin Good Time, which is my Drag King account, where you can follow and see where I'll be performing next. Like you said before, I'm also on TikTok, so you can follow.
I didn't say it.
You
brought it
did
up.
say it.
You brought it up. I didn't say how to find you.
You didn't bring up that I have 26,000.9 followers, but I'm just saying.
Oh, la and D and
La
da.
di da. And then again, we have Facebook. I have my Just In Time account where you guys again can follow all my drag. And yes, that's pretty much what I've got so far. I don't do the twitting and
And the upcoming Instagram profile, boobs and bikes.
Yes, I can definitely do the boobs and bikes. That's not hard. I actually have a friend who we recently did a slave auction, bought me because he wants me to model some of his BMX bikes. So that'll definitely be happening soon.
Nice. Well, next T-shirt we get made, I'll also have to send you away.
Oh, I would love that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And, of course, thank you to everyone for listening. Don't forget, you can support WOWFM. Head on over to wowfm.org. You can become a subscriber or anything else. All the information's up there. Plus, you can check out all the other great shows. Of course, you can stream the station live at 24 hours a day worldwide at wowfm.org. Coming up very shortly, Krez is in the studio for the Emerald Tower. And we're going out right now with one of the coolest songs from one of the coolest movies. Everything's cool. Vee Von Claire, thank you so much for joining me.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
This is DVG.